Now, for many of you who have been following my growing in this particular area, you'll know that this is a brand new pumpkin patch spot. And I've created this raised bed. Of course, at the front, I drilled in at the side and had strawberries all the way, and I've had some fantastic strawberries. And the pumpkins, look at this baby here. It's huge. We're going to have absolutely loads. Now, I have to confess, that early bit of dry spell, some of the pumpkins that are grown as small seedlets, I put about 4 or 5 plants in here. And unfortunately, we were away for a weekend, came back, and 3 of them had dried out. So I got a packet of my Mr. Fothergill seeds, and I may have been slightly over-enthusiastic in planting them in. And look at it. It's like something out of a fairy tale, something out of Jack and the Beanstalk. They're growing all over the place. And I don't want to reduce them or cut them down because I love seeing them, and the kids love it too, because you can come up and almost, it's growing about that much in a day, and so many flowers and so many pumpkins. We're going to be growing these, making our own jack-o'-lanterns outside the front of the house, making our own food from them. I particularly like the pumpkin seeds that we bake. A little bit of salt, the flavour's fantastic. And at the front where the strawberries were, they're on to their next stage. We've had a lot of good crops of strawberries this year. Been a marvellous year for it, strawberries and raspberries. But as you can see, now's the time for the little runners, and this is where the plant sends off other little plantlets, and there's little roots at the bottom here, and they root into the ground. Now, don't rip them up and throw them away. Oh no, you can cut these, put them up into a little container. Probably the best thing to do is to put the containers actually on the ground, anchor the strawberry in, and it'll root into the pot. And a little bit like the umbilical cord on a baby, you can then snip either side there and take that little plantlet and grow it on and pot it up. So you're actually producing your own plants as you grow. Now, the other thing about pumpkins, which is really interesting, because they take so much moisture up and they spread like anything. Normally I would have stopped these a lot earlier, but instead they're actually generating roots as they grow, not just to anchor themselves in, but to really be a part where they can take more moisture from the ground because they're so very, very thirsty. Here's a really good tip if you're growing, and this is what I do with mine here. So as you can see, that pumpkin just at the back is on its side. I'm now going to reach up and turn it round so it sits on the bottom, because when you go into the supermarket you'll find that one is flat on the side, and that's because it's been lying on its side rather than sitting properly. So I move my pumpkins so the base is sitting on the soil. And also, if any pumpkins are hanging over the side because of gravity, rather than growing that lovely pumpkin shape, they grow long and thin like that, as of course gravity is dragging them down. So there you have it. If you go into the supermarket stores and you see different shapes, you'll work out how it's been actually situated where it grows. But when growing pumpkins, they start to look like triffids, and that's what I love about them. I like the wild nature of them. And grow your own is all about enjoyment. It's not just the final product at the end, it's the journey all the way through. Well, you've really got to start cutting back these vines, all the spreading of the pumpkins themselves. Trimming vines can increase the sizes of the pumpkin and lead to a much more abundant harvest. And of course, great harvest is exactly what you want in autumn. And the kids, well, they're already excited. Huge pumpkins to carve. Reducing the number of vines will stop the foliage from choking other plants around. So I've got to cut these back to save me strawberries. But of course, it's also increasing the air circulation. And if you've got good air circulation, it reduces the risk of disease. Now, some of the younger fruits can be trimmed away, so you're letting the energy of the plant focus in on just a few pumpkins so they become bigger and better. So this here is where the main vine of one of the pumpkins is going. And it's got roots as it goes. It's the thickest one compared to all the others. So I'm going to train it in this direction. Now, you've got to be a bit careful when you move them from one to another, because you need to have plenty of foliage and well-developed roots, because the roots obviously need to fuel the growth and give the food to the foliage. And of course, the foliage is really important because it's using the sun to photosynthesize and break energy. So just like I did with the strawberries, make sure that they've rooted in the ground first before you separate anything from the main plant. And these runners can even produce their own runners called tenderies, and the cycle goes on. However, even though It's incredible seeing nature play its part. It's best to remove some of these so the energy goes in to the main vines and the secondary vines, so it's producing more of an energetic and productive plant. Now, after my pumpkin patch started to grow very wild, I did snip off a few of these runners to give the rest of the plant a chance. I haven't done all of them, but it has been growing really well. And rather than discard them into the compost pot, I wanted to see if I could grow more in a separate pot. So I've actually planted some of them in this bed with peat-free compost and a bit of manure, just like I did with my other pumpkins. And I'm going to plant them in an empty space to move the crop around a little bit. But I've got to make sure that I keep on top of watering. That's the one thing, is make sure that they gradually soak down into the soil so there's plenty of moisture for the roots, because they're very, very thirsty. Whilst watering regularly, feed as well every 2 weeks with a high potash fertiliser like a tomato feed when the fruits really start to swell. Give the plant the energy to produce, and these essential nutrients will give the boost to encourage the fruits to grow bigger and better. Well, here we are a few weeks later. You can't believe it, can you? A branch that was just cut from the main body of the plant has solidly rooted into the ground. There we are. Look, it's rooted at this point. See the root just going in there? It's rooted here. It's rooted here. And it's sending off growth in that direction, this direction, and even over here. It's got its own root system. It's got its own growth and foliage and even its own flowers as well. It's a completely new, independent plant. Well, I hope you enjoy looking at the pumpkins. We'll be doing more videos later on to show you the cropping. I'll show you how these pumpkins I've rooted in other beds are working. I'll show you how my lovely strawberries are growing as well. And if you like these videos, please give it a thumbs up and share. And for more great free videos like this one, please subscribe. And also let me know about your experiences with growing pumpkins or strawberries. Please put it in the comments below. And for more great free information on gardening and nature, visit my website, daviddomoney.com.